The glass of iced water sits on the coffee shop table while rain drags silver lines down the window. Dusk has turned the room blue, and across from him, the laptop screen shows the truth. His partner did not just leave the company. He stole what they built. The first instinct is not sadness. It is fire. A tech founder can survive failed funding, broken code, sleepless launches, even public doubt. But betrayal from the person who knew the passwords, the product, the late nights, the private fear, that hits a darker place. The ego wants revenge. The mouth wants one sentence sharp enough to destroy everything. But what is command, if it only exists when no one has wounded you? Tonight, the lesson is not how to avoid rage. It is how to hold the glass steady while rage begs for the hand. Look at him for a moment. Not as a founder in a pitch deck. Not as the clean photo on the company website. Not as the person who learned to say runway, product market fit, and strategic moat like those words could protect him from human betrayal. Look at him as a man sitting in a modern coffee shop at dusk, rain ticking against the windows, one glass of iced water in front of him, and the proof of theft glowing on a laptop screen. The room keeps moving like nothing has happened. A barista wipes down the counter. A student in the corner laughs into her phone. A delivery driver steps in with rain on his jacket and asks for a pickup order. Somewhere behind the espresso machine, milk screams under steam. The world has not paused to respect the scale of what he just discovered. That is part of the insult. When your life cracks open, the world often continues at normal volume. His partner stole the company's IP. Not an idea mentioned casually over coffee. Not a rough sketch on a napkin. The code, the architecture, the thing built through late nights, payroll stress, investor pressure, and the kind of exhaustion that makes your eyes burn at 2:17 in the morning. This was not a stranger taking from him. This was someone who sat beside him, nodded through hard decisions, shared passwords, knew the weak points, and chose the blade of betrayal with a calm hand. The first reaction rises before thought. His jaw locks. His shoulders tighten. His eyes narrow until the whole coffee shop disappears except for that screen. The rain outside becomes background noise. The chair across from him becomes a courtroom. The empty seat looks almost accused, as if the partner should be sitting there, forced to answer for every copied file, every hidden message, every quiet preparation. Then comes the fantasy of revenge. Not a noble fantasy. Not a strategic one. A hot one. He imagines calling him right now. No greeting. No restraint. Just impact. He imagines making the betrayal public, burning every bridge, sending one message to investors, employees, mutual friends, competitors, anyone who will listen. He imagines the satisfaction of watching the other man panic. He imagines a sentence so sharp it feels like justice. But rage is a liar when it first arrives. It tells you speed is strength. It tells you volume is courage. It tells you humiliation must be answered with humiliation, or you have lost. It takes the wound and puts it in charge of the mouth. That is the danger in confrontation. The person who hurt you has already taken something from your external life. If you react from the wound, you hand them something more valuable, command over your behavior. This is where Fudoshin begins. Not in a quiet room. Not after a clean breath and a perfect morning routine. Fudoshin begins when the body wants to become an animal and the mind has 1 second to become a commander. The tech founder does not become calm because the betrayal is small. It is not small. He does not pretend he is above anger. He is not above anger. His hands know the truth before his philosophy does. His pulse is loud. His throat is tight. There is a pressure behind his eyes like something trying to break through. But the glass of iced water remains in his hand. The ice shifts. Clink. A small sound. Almost nothing. But the hand does not tremble. That sound becomes a line in the room. On one side of the line is reaction. On the other side is command. Reaction says, make him pay right now. Command says, do not let your pain write the next sentence. Reaction says, answer betrayal with force. Command says, set the boundary so clearly that your dignity does not need to shout. Reaction says, destroy him. Command says, protect what remains, document what is true, and speak only from the part of you that you will respect tomorrow. This is not weakness. This is not passivity. This is not letting the betrayal slide into the dark. Stillness is often misunderstood by people who only recognize power when it makes noise. But in a real confrontation, stillness can be the most dangerous kind of strength because it refuses to be dragged into the emotional weather of the other person. A wounded ego wants a fight that feels immediate. A disciplined mind wants an outcome that can stand in daylight. That is the difference. He looks at the laptop again. The files. The dates. The access trail. The messages that now read differently. It is strange how betrayal changes the past. A joke becomes suspicious. A delay becomes evidence. A late night "I'll handle it" turns into a doorway you should have watched more closely. This is the inner micro scene no one sees. Inside him, the mind starts rewriting history at violent speed. How did I miss it? Was I stupid? Did everyone else know? Did I build my life beside a thief? What else is gone? Who else is lying? Rage rarely travels alone. It brings shame with it. It brings humiliation. It brings the sickening feeling that your trust was used as an unlocked door. And that is why revenge feels so tempting. Revenge offers a fake cure for humiliation. It says, if you can make them hurt, you will stop feeling small. But the feeling does not disappear. It only changes shape. It becomes a habit of living under the command of the person who betrayed you. Samurai discipline does not ask him to forgive in that coffee shop. It does not ask him to soften the facts or spiritualize the theft or smile like a man who has transcended being human. That would be dishonest. The betrayal must be faced. Boundaries must be drawn. Consequences may have to follow through the proper channels. But the first battlefield is not legal. It is not corporate. It is not public. The first battlefield is the space between the injury and the response. That space is narrow. Sometimes it is no wider than one breath. Sometimes it is the distance between the thumb and the cold side of a glass. Sometimes it is the half second after the ice cubes clink, when the body is ready to move and the mind says, not yet. Across the table, there is no partner to confront yet. Only the idea of him. Only the memory of his voice. Only the imagined argument. And this is where many people lose. They do not wait for the actual confrontation. They start fighting a ghost, and by the time the real conversation arrives, they have already burned through their judgment. The founder lifts the glass. The water is cold enough to sting his palm. He takes one slow drink, not because water fixes betrayal, but because the body needs a physical instruction. Cold. Swallow. Breathe. Set the glass down. Do not slam it. Do not perform your anger for the room. Do not let the student in the corner, the barista, the rain, the empty chair witness you abandon yourself. That is not image management. That is self-command. A person without discipline asks, what do I feel like doing? A person under command asks, what action keeps me aligned with what must be protected? For a founder, that question matters. The company is not just his pride. It may hold employees, customers, obligations, contracts, families depending on payroll, investors who trusted the vision, users who never asked to be dragged into a personal war. Rage wants to shrink the entire situation into two men and a betrayal. Discipline widens the frame. It remembers the mission even while the wound is fresh. This is the confrontation before the confrontation. He is not facing his partner yet. He is facing the version of himself that wants to become reckless and call it justice. The rain keeps falling. The coffee shop lights reflect in the window. His own face looks back at him, layered over the street outside, and it is not the face of a man who feels nothing. It is the face of a man feeling too much and choosing not to be ruled by it. That choice is the beginning of stillness. Not peace. Stillness. Peace may come later, or it may not. Answers may come later, or they may not. The damage may take months to untangle. Trust may not return. The business may have to change. The relationship may be over in every way that matters. But in this first hour, under rainy dusk, with a glass of iced water and the clink of ice in his hand, the founder learns the first law of confrontation. Never let the person who betrayed you decide what kind of person you become in response. Discipline does not begin after you feel calm. It begins in the first second you realize you are about to lose command. That second is ugly. It does not feel spiritual. It does not feel clean. It feels like heat in the chest, pressure in the jaw, fingers wanting to grab the phone and turn pain into a message. It feels like the whole body has already voted for revenge before the mind has even entered the room. So the first practice is not wisdom. The first practice is stopping. The founder keeps the phone face down beside the laptop. He does not unlock it. He does not draft the text. He does not open the investor thread. He does not search for the partner's name just to feed the fire. He lets the first wave rise without obeying it. In his mind, he names it plainly. Rage. Not justice yet. Not strategy. Not truth. Rage. This matters because the emotion loses some of its disguise when it is named. As long as rage calls itself clarity, it can drive the whole car. But once the mind says, "This is rage," command has returned by 1 inch. 1 inch is enough to begin. The rain keeps tapping the glass. Dusk presses blue against the coffee shop window. The laptop screen is still open, still accusing, still bright with evidence. Nothing outside him has softened. But inside, the first order has been given: do not move from the wound. Then he takes the second practice. He anchors the body. His palm closes around the glass of iced water. Not hard. Not theatrical. Just enough to feel the cold. The rim is wet. The condensation touches the lines of his fingers. The ice cubes shift again. Clink. The sound is small, but he gives it his full attention. He lets the cold tell the body where it is. Not in the future courtroom of his imagination. Not in the fantasy where he destroys the partner with one perfect sentence. Not in the past, replaying every meeting, every handshake, every late night promise. Here. Coffee shop. Rain. Dusk. Glass. Hand. Breath. He inhales through the nose, slow enough that nobody in the room would notice. He exhales without making a performance of calm. He feels both feet under the table. He lowers his shoulders. He lets his eyes move from the screen to the water, from the water to the window, from the window back to the screen. This is not avoidance. This is return. A man who cannot return to the present cannot make a clean decision. He will only make a loud one. The third practice is to shrink the battle. Rage wants to solve the entire betrayal at once. It wants the company saved, the partner exposed, the damage reversed, the humiliation erased, the past rewritten, and the future secured before the ice melts. That is too large for one nervous system at dusk in a coffee shop. So he reduces the war to the next honorable action. Not the next satisfying action. The next honorable one. He asks himself, quietly, what must be protected first? The answer is not his pride. Pride is screaming, but it is not first. What must be protected first is the company's remaining integrity, the people connected to it, the facts, and his own ability to act without poisoning the situation further. So he does one small thing. He takes a screenshot of what is already on the screen. Then he stops. He does not interpret it. He does not add insults in the file name. He does not write a speech. He saves what is factual and leaves the commentary outside the folder. Then he writes down the time. Dusk. Rainy. Coffee shop. Discovery. Not because the note fixes anything, but because discipline respects sequence. When the mind is burning, sequence becomes a rail. It keeps the train from leaving the track. The fourth practice is to separate response from performance. There is a version of him that wants witnesses. He wants somebody to see how badly he has been wronged. He wants the room to know he is not weak. He wants to stand up, make the call, let his voice cut through the coffee shop, turn the betrayal into a public scene. But samurai discipline asks a colder question. Who is this action for? If the action is for the mission, it may be necessary. If the action is for the ego, it will probably be expensive. So he stays seated. He opens a blank note. At the top, he writes one line: do not reward betrayal with loss of command. Then beneath it, he writes only what he knows, not what he fears. File accessed. Date visible. Partner connected. Possible IP theft. He stops at possible, even though rage hates that word. Rage wants certainty before the facts are complete. Discipline can tolerate the insult of careful language. It knows that restraint now may protect strength later. This is especially hard for a founder. Founders are trained to move fast. Decide fast. Pitch fast. Hire fast. Fire fast. Pivot fast. Speed becomes part of the identity. But there are moments when speed is not leadership. It is leakage. It is the wound trying to manage the company. In a confrontation, the highest skill may be delay without weakness. He can act. He will act. But he will not let the first version of himself choose the form. The fifth practice is to prepare the boundary before the conversation. Not a threat. A boundary. Threats are designed to make the other person afraid. Boundaries are designed to keep reality clear. He writes a sentence he could say without raising his voice. I have discovered evidence that company IP may have been taken. I am not going to discuss this emotionally. I am preserving the facts, pausing direct access, and moving through the proper process. He reads it once. It sounds too calm for the amount of fire in him. Good. That means it did not come from the fire. He changes nothing. He lets the sentence sit there like a weight on the table. Clean. Firm. Boring in the best way. No insult. No performance. No attempt to sound powerful. Power does not always need a costume. Then he practices the sixth movement, the one no one applauds. He lets himself feel the betrayal without making it a weapon. For 10 seconds, he does nothing useful. He looks out at the rain. A car passes, headlights blurred in the wet street. The coffee shop window catches the reflection of his face and the pale rectangle of the laptop. The glass of iced water sits beside his wrist, the ice slowly thinning. He allows the sentence to form inside him. I trusted him, and he used that trust. That is the wound. He does not decorate it. He does not make it noble. He does not rush past it into strategy because strategy feels safer than grief. He simply lets the truth land. Stillness is not numbness. Stillness is the ability to feel the wound without letting the wound hold the steering wheel. Then comes ritual. Because one good breath is not enough. One calm sentence is not enough. Under real pressure, the mind forgets. The body returns to habit. The revenge fantasy comes back wearing a new face. So the founder creates a sequence he can repeat every time the rage surges. Phone down. Hand on glass. Name the emotion. Feel the cold. One breath. Write only facts. Choose the next honorable action. He repeats it once. Then again. The ice clinks, and now the sound no longer means frozen shock. It means return. It means the body remembers the way back from the edge. It means there is a place inside him that betrayal did not enter. This is Shugyo inside Fudoshin, training under pressure, not in theory, but in the exact room where the pressure finds you. No mountain. No monastery. No ancient battlefield. A coffee shop at dusk. A laptop screen. A stolen product. Rain on the window. A glass of iced water held by a man who has every reason to shake, and chooses instead to become precise. That is the practice. Not to become harmless. To become governed. The rain has not stopped. That matters. Because transformation does not mean the weather obeys you. It does not mean the stolen files return to their folder, or the partner suddenly confesses, or the company becomes safe because one man took a breath in a coffee shop. The outside world is still unstable. The laptop is still open. The evidence still sits there with its cold little timestamps. The empty chair across from him is still empty. The partner is still somewhere else, carrying what he took, maybe already rehearsing his excuse, maybe already convinced he was justified. Nothing has become easier. But the founder is no longer being dragged. That is the shift. At the beginning, the glass of iced water was just an object on the table. A thing beside the wound. Condensation running down the sides. Ice striking glass like a small alarm. Now it has become a test. He lifts it again, and the ice moves. Clink. This time, the sound does not provoke him. It measures him. His hand stays steady, not because the rage is gone, but because the rage has been put in its place. It is present. It is allowed to exist. But it no longer has the authority to speak first. He looks back at the screen. The facts are still brutal, but they are no longer blurry. The first fire made everything look personal, total, endless. Now the situation has edges. A file. A date. A breach of trust. A boundary. A next step. This is what stillness does. It gives shape back to reality. He does not slam the laptop shut. He does not stand up so fast that the chair scrapes across the floor. He does not turn the coffee shop into a stage for pain. He stays seated under the low evening light while the room continues around him. Espresso steam, wet jackets, muted conversations, headlights moving across the window. For the first time since discovery, he notices the people again. Not because they matter to the case. Because the world has returned to proportion. A person under rage believes the wound is the whole universe. A person under command can see the wound and the room at the same time. That is not small. That is discipline becoming visible. The founder moves with a different pace now. He closes the public tabs. He preserves what must be preserved. He limits what must be limited. He drafts the first calm message, not to punish, not to perform, but to establish reality. Every sentence is stripped of heat. No insults. No threats. No theatrical moral speech. Just the blade of clarity. I have discovered evidence that company IP may have been taken. Direct access is being paused while the facts are reviewed. We will proceed through the appropriate process. He reads it once. His ego hates how quiet it is. His discipline trusts it. That is the confrontation after the confrontation, The moment when your pride begs you to decorate the truth with anger, and you refuse because the truth does not need decoration. The partner may deny it. He may twist the story. He may call it a misunderstanding. He may try to provoke a reaction, because people who betray often understand that your worst response can become their best defense. So the founder prepares not only for what he will say, but for what he will not give away. He will not give away his tone. He will not give away his timing. He will not give away the dignity of the company to satisfy the hunger of one wounded hour. This is not softness. It is containment. In modern life, people confuse containment with weakness because it lacks spectacle. We are trained to think power must announce itself. A furious email. A public post. A cutting message. A room made uncomfortable by one person's pain. But the strongest boundary is often spoken in a voice that does not shake. The founder's stillness does not erase consequence. It makes consequence cleaner. He can protect the company without becoming cruel. He can cut access without becoming reckless. He can confront betrayal without becoming obsessed with revenge. He can let the facts carry weight instead of trying to make his anger do all the lifting. That is the transformation. Not from rage to happiness. From rage to command. The coffee shop door opens, and a draft of rainy air moves through the room. For a second, the cold touches his face. He realizes his breathing has changed. Earlier, every breath was high and trapped, caught somewhere between his chest and his throat. Now it is lower. Not peaceful. Just usable. Usable is enough. A disciplined man does not need to feel ready before he does what is right. He needs enough command to take the next clean step. He sends the calm message. Then he sets the phone down. No victory music. No dramatic release. No sudden sense that justice has arrived. Just a small, controlled action taken from the part of him that betrayal could not reach. He sits for a few more seconds after sending it. This pause is important. The old impulse would have chased the message. Checked whether it was read. Imagined the reply. Prepared the attack. Reopened the wound every 3 seconds to make sure it was still there. But now he lets the phone remain still. The partner does not get to live in his hand. The glass of iced water rests beside it, half melted now. The ice that once sounded like shock now sounds like training. Every clink has changed meaning. At first, it said, "Do not break." Then it said, "Come back." Now it says, "You are still here." And he is. Not untouched. Not above pain. Not suddenly wise in some impossible way. Still here. There is a kind of man who only discovers his values when they are convenient. He speaks of integrity when trust is easy, patience when no one has insulted him, restraint when there is nothing to restrain. But the real test comes when the body has a reason to become ugly and the mind chooses form. That is where samurai discipline becomes modern. Not in costume. Not in legend. Not in pretending a founder in a coffee shop is an ancient warrior. It becomes modern in the way he touches the glass instead of grabbing the phone. In the way he writes facts instead of fantasies. In the way he lets consequences move through clean channels instead of using chaos as revenge. In the way he refuses to let betrayal recruit him into becoming a smaller version of himself. The rain continues. The company is still at risk. The next days may be hard. There may be meetings, explanations, damage control, silence from people who should have spoken, and anger returning in waves when he least expects it. But the center has been found. And once a man has found his center under betrayal, he knows something that cannot be taught by comfort. He knows that stillness is not the absence of fire. Stillness is fire under command. Most people will never discover betrayal in a coffee shop with rain on the window and company IP glowing on a laptop screen. But everyone has a moment where the hand wants to shake. Maybe it happens in an office. Maybe in a kitchen after a hard conversation. Maybe on a late commute, when one message changes the whole night. Your battlefield may not look dramatic, but it will still ask the same question: who commands you when you are wounded? The founder did not win by feeling nothing. He won the first inch by not letting rage become his voice, his hand, his next mistake. So when your own glass of iced water appears, when the ice clinks and your pride begs for revenge, pause. Hold steady. If this lesson stayed with you, return to this channel and train the next quiet inch. Stillness is fire under command.